Today we'll be installing these black rear view mirrors on this 2008 FJ Cruiser. This is a base model, so it has the silver mirrors and they're not power and they don't have the light in them. However, all the wiring is in place from the factory, so this is not only going to be a black mirror switch, but will also be a power mirror conversion. Now in order to get the mirrors off, we need to remove the inner door panels to get to the bolts that hold it on. The way these are held on is there's a screw underneath this little plate right here, underneath the plate and back of the handle right here, and then we have a pin up front here. So I'll take a screwdriver. Ideally I'd use a plastic pry tool, but all I have is a screwdriver right now. Seems like I've been saying that quite a bit lately, so I think it might be time to invest in a few more tools. So I'm going to stick, there's a little slot right at the end here that's made for putting a pry tool in. Put the screwdriver in there, same with the one on here. And then there'll be a Phillips screw underneath those, so we'll take both of those out, keeping track of which one went where. And then for this little tab right here, you can see there's kind of a dimple in the middle of it. I'll just take a pointed tool, push that dimple in, and that will release the plug. Now just so I remember, the longer black screw goes behind the handle down here, and the shorter screw goes up by the lock. And there's that clip. Now we just pop off the door panel, and I've found that it's easiest to start down by the speaker, to just get a hand in up underneath the plastic edge of the panel and start from there and pull it out, because there's plastic clips all around the outside of this that hold the panel to the door. So that frees the panel. Now we'll lift it up because there's a lip that hangs on the edge of the door right here, and we'll need to unplug the switches on the door and disconnect the cable for the handle and the lock. Now I know this will probably be a little difficult to see, but I will try to illuminate it the best I can. But it's relatively self-explanatory once the panel comes off. We've got two cables here. A white one on the top here goes to the lock. The green one on the bottom goes to the handle. So we'll just pop those off by swinging them out. And they release. Same thing there. Like I said, the white goes to the lock on the top and the green goes to the handle on the bottom. Now we just need to disconnect this wiring harness, which is going to be like one clip, which you're really not going to be able to see, but this little tab will push up and it pulls right out. Now we just need to pop off this plate, which I'll use a 10mm socket for. Now if we take a look inside that hole, we'll see the bolts that hold the mirror on. So one down here, then two up there, and then the wiring harness that we'll need to plug into the new mirrors. And this is actually secured to the manual mirror, and we'll need to disconnect this one first by just pressing the release button at the end of the clip. Now we can pop out these other bolts, which I'll also use a 10mm for. I'll take out the bottom one first and then one of the top ones, and then as I remove the second top one, I'll be sure to grab around to the outside and hold the mirror so it doesn't fall on the floor. So now with all the bolts loose, I'll just wiggle this a little bit to get the rubber seal on the outside to break free from the door. Then there's one more piece of plastic that's stuck against the lip of the door. I'll use a screwdriver to pry off. Again, like the video that I had putting the black door handles on this, I'm going to take a piece of duct tape and put it on a screwdriver just so we don't scratch up the paint in here while we're prying. I'll show you that clip in a minute. These little wing kind of things right here are what I was prying on with the screwdriver to get this free. And now that this is off, I'm just going to wipe down the outside of the door where this rubber gasket sat. So we're going to clean it up real nice in case there was any dirt on there underneath this, because I don't want any dirt getting sandwiched between the door and the new mirror and scratching up the paint and causing rust in the future. I would like to note that the seller that I bought these from on Amazon put them in a box with absolutely no packaging when they shipped them. And the passenger side gasket, where the mirror meets up with the door, had a tear in it, or actually it got a hole punched through it, because this thing must have got bounced around enough in the mail where the mirror hit the side of the cardboard box, and this plastic edge at the base of the mirror here ended up punching through the rubber. So I inspected that on the driver's side. It wasn't the case over here, and I did have them send a replacement on the passenger side, which was pretty painless. I pretty much told them just the problem I had, and they sent out another one, so that was great. But now that we're ready to install, I'm going to go ahead and run around the outside of the base on here and make sure that this rubber piece is pushed up all the way onto the base, because it can be a little bit of a problem if we get these pushed up against the door and the gasket's folded underneath. We can deal with it, but it's easier just to make sure it's in place before putting the mirror on. Now you're going to have to bear with me on the lighting because my good halogen light just burnt out, so we're using a fluorescent light for the rest of this install. Now that kind of snaps into place and holds itself there a little bit. Not going to leave it for too long, so I'm just going to reach around, hold the mirror, and thread the screws in. I'm just going to go around the other side before we tighten these up too much and make sure that the gasket's still properly sitting on the base of the mirror. Since the gasket's sitting fine, we're going to go ahead and tighten this up the rest of the way. And then we'll plug in the electrical connection. And from here, I'm going to move on to installing the switch on the dash, because I want to test these mirrors to make sure that they're fully functioning prior to covering the door back up. So I bought this switch off of eBay used, maybe 20-30 bucks, something like that. I don't think I mentioned I got the mirrors for about 100 on Amazon, brand new. And where this switch mounts is right up here on the dash. We can see that little box right there. We need to pop that plate out. There's a wiring harness behind it that will plug directly into this, and we should be good to go. So in order to get to that, I'm going to come underneath here and pop the cover off of the fuse box. Now if I reach underneath and get my fingers up to just behind this box and pop out the cover. And if we look into here, you can see that little connector in there. Looks awfully similar to the connector on the back of the switch. So I'm just going to cut that little piece of tape that's holding that to the wiring harness, which will free it up so we can get a little more movement out of it. We'll plug it in, and then this switch will just snap right into the dash. And there we go. So now I'm just going to turn the key on for the ignition so we can get power to the switch. And I will test the mirrors, because I already installed the passenger side, which was exactly the same as the driver's side. Except I think the door panel over there had 2 plugs in it instead of the single plug that we had on the driver's side for the controls. Here we go. Here's the big test. Is it going to work? Oh yeah. What luxury, huh? Check that out. How about the passenger side? That one is quite a bit louder than the driver's side, but it works. So anyway, from here I'll go ahead and put the door panels back on, which is just the same as removal but reversed. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to bother filming that. And that's it. I mean, this is a pretty simple install. Had I sprung for the TRD official Trail Teams mirrors, which were, I think, 3 times the price of these ones, they probably would have fit a little bit better, but for the price, these ones seem pretty good so far. If they end up failing in the future, I'll definitely update this. I'll put right down in the description how long I got out of them or whatever. But I'm pretty much the only one that drives the thing. So, I mean, once they get adjusted into position, I don't think they're ever going to move. But at least we've got the black mirrors, and now we have the light on the outside of the mirror as well. So we will check that out. And that wraps up this one. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable, appreciate it if you give it a big thumbs up. And go ahead and subscribe for more on this FJ to come.